Hi guys, Mrs. Karaz here. Today we're looking at Chapter 2, Section 4, France and the Netherlands in North America. So we start with New France, just like Spain named its empire in the Americas New Spain. France decides to name its colonies New France. And France began establishing colonies in the Americas in the early 1600s. Samuel de Champlain is an explorer that you definitely need to know. He made the first of 11 voyages to explore and map lands along the St. Lawrence River. He established a settlement near this river, which was Quebec. The French thought that fish and furs were the most valuable resources here in the Americas. While the Spanish, we saw, were really concerned with searching for gold, the French realized that natural resources are probably more likely to be found and be valuable. The French actually established a system of trading with Native Americans for animal skins, which then could be sent to Europe to be made into clothes and hats. Champlain established the first French trading post in Nova Scotia, which part of New France, in 1604, and he encouraged, there should be a D there, Native Americans to trade with the French. So we're seeing a different relationship than we saw with between Spanish settlers and Native Americans. The French really tried to do business with them instead of forcing Native Americans into one specific, role, which was the bottom of the totem pole in New Spain. So in New France, fur company employees would use canoes to explore the region and search for more Native Americans to trade with. There were a group of traders, French traders, named Coureurs de Bois, or Runners of the Woods, and they were independent traders who lived among the Native Americans, and they would do business with the French settlers. In the 1600s, in the late 1600s, farming becomes more popular in New France for three main reasons. So first of all, the fur trade declined. There was a smaller market for fur. Fewer people wanted to purchase it. Then we have the fact that Native Americans were in wars that prevented them from trading. It was if you're in war, right, you need all your resources for yourself to feed your men and women while the men are off. The third reason was that more settlers came to New France at this time, and bottom line, they needed to be fed. People couldn't spend all their time worrying about trading valuables. We need to put food on the table for these new settlers. So farming becomes more popular. Just like the Spanish and the English, the French were concerned with the idea of mercantilism. They wanted to take the resources from the New World and use it to make France itself in Europe more powerful. And they wanted to convert people to the Christian faith. So we have Father Jacques Marquette. He founds two missions in the Great Lakes region. And remember, missions are religious settlements where you're trying to convert the locals, to Christianity. In 1673, Marquette and Louis Joliet, a trader, explore the Mississippi River while looking for a northwest passage. We saw that definition in a previous section. And in 1682, René Robert Cavelier claims the entire Mississippi Valley for France. And he names this region Louisiana in honor of King Louis XIV. We will come back to this sometime this year, when we actually get to the Louisiana Purchase, where this territory will stop belonging to France and will belong to the Americas. Moving on to New Netherland, and remember the Dutch are the people from the Netherlands. So in 1610, Dutch traders came to the Hudson River Valley and began a profitable trade with Native Americans. In 1624, the Dutch West India Company established a permanent colony in Fort Orange, a trading post that was later renamed Albany. I think you're getting a hint at where we are. In 1626, Governor Peter Minuet purchases an island from Native Americans, which he calls New Amsterdam. The English didn't like the idea of New Netherlands, so we saw English settlements in the past section. the English wanted to expand their reach, and New Netherland was kind of right in the middle of what the English wanted for themselves. So in 1664, English troops seized New Netherland, renamed it New York after the king's brother, the Duke of York. So we are talking about the origins of our very home state. And in fact, that island that was purchased from Native Americans was Manhattan, where we sit in school today. And here's the last slide for this entire chapter, the impact on Native Americans in New France and the New Netherlands. The fur trade started out really positive for Native Americans. The French gave Native Americans manufactured goods that they couldn't make themselves in exchange for fur that Native Americans were giving them. Another piece of the impact was that the French and Dutch made alliances with Native Americans, and an alliance, remember, is a mutually beneficial agreement between two parties. So both the French and the Dutch benefited from teaming. So both the French and Native Americans, or both the Dutch and the Native Americans, benefited from teaming up with each other. Native Americans benefited in one way by gaining more powerful weapons from their allies, and they could use those weapons to wage war against rival tribes, tribes that hadn't established alliances yet. On the bad side, Native Americans contracted many diseases from the Europeans. The germs that were prospering in Europe were very different from the germs over here in the United States, or what would become the United States. So Native Americans had no immunities built up to these diseases, and that led to many deaths, obviously. Last but not least, and here's where the fur trade turns negative, because there was over-trapping of animals, they were being killed out too quickly, that meant there was a decrease in Native American food supply, and that also made them less valuable trade partners. If there are fewer animals to catch and trade, well, you don't have anything to barter with, and that will become a problem. But that brings us to a wrap on Chapter 2. This is our last big overview chapter. In Chapter 3, we get into the nitty-gritty details of the colonies being established here in the first place. But first, we'll do some review, we'll have a test, and you will hopefully have a lovely afternoon. Bye, guys.